welcome to the Intuitively Wild podcast. I'm your host, Rachel Levine. Living intuitively wild is about coming back home to ourselves. Here we talk about how to live connected to ourselves, others, and nature, and make a commitment to radical authenticity, vulnerability, and acceptance. On this podcast, we delve into a wide range of topics that span the human experience. We peel back the layers and talk about the things that are often not talked about. This is a space for us all to walk and wander this path of life together. Let's dig into our roots and go deep. Hello, welcome back to the Intuitively Wild podcast. I am so grateful you are here. So grateful to be connecting with you in this way. If you are new, welcome. My name is Rachel. I am the owner and founder of Intuitively Wild, a lifestyle brand full of products and services to help you reconnect to yourself, reconnect to nature, and live your most authentic life with confidence and live really intentionally. And as you are all listening to this, I am in the midst of a self-prescribed mandatory little reset. And for me, this is encompassing all social media, media in general, and really any external noise or stimulus that I intake usually. And also a whole refresh of my routine. This is a big deal for me. And today I'm going to talk about why I decided to do this and why this is so huge for me and what I'm hoping to get out of this, and maybe leave you with some questions to get curious about within yourself. So I spent a very large majority of my life off of all social media. And when I graduated college and moved to Hawaii, I deleted any social media I had left and was off it for a very long time completely, and spent a lot of time in silence, in meditation, and that time in my life holds many different layers, but that aspect of it was really sacred for me. And I only got back on social media more fully when I decided to start my business. And I am not against social media completely. I'm absolutely not. And it has brought a lot of joy and love and friendship and magic into my life in so many ways. And it's how I, run my business. It's a big part of what I do now. And I am still working on ways to make it work for me and work in my life. And I enjoy aspects of it. And at the same time, I crave the quiet in my brain that comes from not being on it all the time. And recently, my brain has just felt really clouded and crowded. And I feel tired. I have been really, really tired recently, and I keep getting the nudge over and over. I have for a while now to take a break, just take a step back. And that's scary with social media because my business does rely on it in a certain way. And I'm a consistency person. It's very easy for me to show up and be consistent, and I'm proud of that. I like that about myself, and it's scary for me to break from that, to bring about that change. But then I remind myself, it's really not that serious. It's really not that big of a deal. And regardless of any impact or result, this is what my intuition is telling me. And so I have to trust it. I've been talking about this a lot recently. We don't need to know why. We don't need to understand why our intuition is telling us something. We don't need to know what's going to come of it. We don't need to feel super confident about the decision or even excited about the decision. We don't need to have the validation and the reassurance and the surety around it, the 100% knowing around it. All we have to know is that it's coming up for us. Our intuition is bringing it to us over and over again. And so there's something there for us. And that has been happening for me around this little reset, we'll say. And not just with social media, but also with my routine. And this is huge for me. I am a routine queen. I am a huge routine person. And that has served me well in a lot of ways. And again, this is something that comes easy to me. Being consistent, showing up, having a routine, it comes easy to me. And in a lot of ways, it saves me. Like my morning routine and having my meditation practice, my journaling practice, my yoga, like that, it really does help me in a lot of ways. And at the same time, it can hinder me from being present and taking stock of what is changing for me, changing up my routine. This is why I am such a big advocate. I'm constantly talking about routine versus ritual. And a lot of what I do with clients and what my products are based around is bridging the difference between routine and ritual, getting off of autopilot and really being intentional. And also it's the difference between the mundane and magic. And I feel that it can be easy for certain parts of my life to be routine versus a ritual. And I really want to tap back into that. And I think for me, sometimes the only way to do that is to just wipe the slate clean. And that's what I'm hoping to do next week, is to have more space in my day to just see what happens, to really let myself move slowly and be aware with what I need to do. Of course, I'll still be working, like I'll still have things to do, but when do I want to do them? And where do I want to do them? And at what pace? And how can I be really, really present and intentional? How can I set my space up in a new way that feels like it's magic? Light all my candles and open the windows, and instead of listening to a podcast and tuning out a bit, tune into what my intuition is telling me. Be really, really quiet and get really clear. Because recently something I have been craving is clarity and creativity, space to be more creative and just write and write and write. I've just been wanting to write and get even more in touch with what my intuition is saying to me, completely separate from any external impact. In human design, I have both my top 2 centers, my crown and ajna centers, open, which just means that I can be more easily susceptible to taking in other people's thoughts and opinions. And there's a lot of beauty. There's highs and lows to having open centers when you're just more susceptible to taking on other people's energy in those spaces. And for me, this is just felt in the crowdedness of my brain, in the tiredness of my brain. It just means that I easily take on the external stimulus and noise going on around me. And I feel that. I feel that in my brain. My brain feels full and it feels tired. And I just want to kind of wring it out, to shake out all the other people's stuff that has sunk its way into my brain and see what is underneath that. What is purely mine? And I just want space to be more deeply with myself. And this by no means means that I'm going to completely disconnect from the world and go on some silent meditation retreat for the whole week. Although that I am craving too, but that's not my intention for this week. In fact, I want to be even more present in my community with people. I want to spend more time working at coffee shops and walking Theo in the afternoons through town and, go someplace for sunset and just be out in my real life more and connecting with people in real life more and exploring what is happening in the world when I'm usually in my normal routine. And I do have the privilege of setting my own schedule and working from anywhere, unless I'm recording or with a client or making teas. But a lot of work I can do from anywhere. I can do a lot of work from coffee shops, and I love working from coffee shops, but I can get so caught up in my routine and what I typically do that I don't give myself the space to do that, or I get so caught up in this busyness, and something that I am a culprit of, a sore spot for me is feeling like if I am not exhausted, if I don't feel like I'm burning myself to the ground, then I am not working hard enough. And I really want to rewrite that story for me. Success is not based off of your struggle. And you don't have to prove your worth or prove you are doing enough. And I think that letting myself hit this reset button, disconnect from the noise, wipe the slate clean on my routines, and just soften and see what comes from that will be really helpful for me in that regard. Because also, that is the essence of springtime. I feel like we talk a lot about how winter is this shedding and this time to go inward and that dark time and this time of letting go. And it definitely is. But I think spring asks even more of us in regards to letting go and shedding and coming out new. Because in winter, we can kind of disappear into the dark and take that pause from building new things and really root into the ground and let ourselves be more bare. But spring is the time when we have to integrate it all, when we have to show up new, when we are really taking off the old layers, And if winter is the time when we are in the cocoon or in hibernation, spring is the time when we're starting to come up from the surface, come out of the cocoon, wipe the slime off of us and dust off the dirt and the mud and the dust and claw our way back into the light. And it's really, really challenging. I honestly think spring is the hardest season or the most drastic change from one season to the next, because winter to spring, that is a big difference, and that's a big shift energetically and physically, and I've definitely been feeling it mentally. It's like you're coming out and looking at the light for the first time in years, and it's blinding your eyes, and you're like, what is going on? Who am I? How do I show up in the world in this new way that I've discovered I want to embrace over the winter time? And I feel like we need this space to be with ourselves as we are stepping back into the light. And, it's no surprise that Monday, April 8th, right before you listen to this, the week that I'm doing this, is the eclipse. And it's actually really funny. This eclipse is happening in my house of routines and daily life and work. So that checks out for me 100%. And I've definitely been feeling this eclipse season hard. These last 2 weeks have been asking a lot from us and asking us to make the changes that we have been maybe avoiding or numbing or afraid to look at. And that is the biggest thing that social media gives to us, or any external stimulus or anything that brings us away from ourselves and fills the space. It's a distraction. It can be a numbing. It can be avoidance. It can be a coping mechanism, and all of that is okay. 100% all of that is okay, and we all need to turn to those tools once in a while. And yet, I think we have gotten way too used to filling all empty space. When is the last time that you truly just sat in empty space? And not just when you were meditating or doing some mindfulness practice, because obviously that is so important and a huge part of my life and what I help people incorporate into their life. But there's more to it than that. It's about being able to be present in our everyday lives and not just doing mindfulness for mindfulness sake to check it off the list or to biohack our way into a more productive, successful life. It's just being present. It's just slowing down. It's going at the pace that your body wants to go at and not rushing through life, not numbing through life, not distracting. And not needing to do it for any certain purpose other than to be present with your life. This is why meditation and mindfulness practices are so challenging, because it forces us to sit with no distractions, and all that we have been pushing away comes to the surface, whether we realize it or not. The anxieties and the thoughts and the fears and the questions and the unknown, all that we have been running from internally comes up. Even if there's nothing serious, we're just so used to filling that empty space. And it's really uncomfortable to sit in that. And I want to sit in the discomfort. I know it's going to come up because, like I said, I listen to so many podcasts, and I find myself on Instagram even when I don't need to be for work, and always just feel like I need to fill the space with something, to prove I'm being productive enough or just to get everything done that I need to do. And I don't want to do that. And I know discomfort is going to come from that. And I want to sit in the discomfort and I want to see what comes up. And I don't want to have any expectations. I'm not expecting like some big download or creative idea to come through. I just want to feel spacious. I just want to soften. I just want to let go of the tight grip that I feel like I have to have on life and on my daily life in particular. And I think so many of us need this without realizing. If you feel yourself constantly wired and tired or frustrated or angry or resentful about something in your life, you can look at your not self theme in human design. For generators and manifesting generators, it's frustration. For projectors, it's bitterness or resentment. For manifestors, it is anger. And for reflectors, it is disappointment. And if you feel that theme coming up in your life repeatedly over and over, it is a sign that something in your life needs to shift. And maybe you can pinpoint specifically what that is, or maybe it's just a general sense of frustration or anger, etc. And I just urge you to take a broad scope view of your life and see how you can shift it up. See how you can shift things from routine to ritual. It's the smallest things. That's the whole thing is like, it's the smallest things. It's not getting caught up in the little things that don't matter, not getting caught up in the drama and not getting attached to other people's stories and not getting swept up in the trends and the news, and just being present with your life and your joy and what fills you up and your path, and really devoting your heart to it, devoting yourself to your life. And, I'm always caught in these different pictures of my dreams for my life, because on the one hand, I would love to live completely off grid in the middle of a forest and on a farm with all my rescue animals and not touch social media and just be a forest fairy. And on the other hand, I have the deepest desire to have a big impact and to build my brand and business so it can really help a lot of people, and to use my voice and connect deeply with others and be seen and known and heard and help others do the same. And both can exist at the same time. I'm claiming both. And I honestly think that claiming both will help me achieve both. Like both need to exist for me because both are my true heart's desires. So I'm hoping this little refresh will help me get even clearer on what that path can look like for me and unfold for me. And I want to urge you all to do some sort of refresh this week. You know, the eclipse is asking for it. It's forcing us to make some changes, and that will look different for every single person because we're all going through different things and need to make different shifts. But what is something that has been coming up for you over and over, something that your intuition has been saying to you over and over that you either don't want to do, are scared to do, you do want to do but feel like you can't or aren't allowed to, or people wouldn't approve, or you just haven't gone quiet enough to listen to what that voice is telling you? It doesn't have to be anything big or drastic. And maybe if it does feel really scary, you can just take a baby step in that direction. But what is one thing you can do for yourself to refresh this week and to honor what your intuition has been telling you, and to really show up for your life in a new way, and to sit with the discomfort of that? Because on the other side of that discomfort is something for you. I promise. Removing the distractions will bring up discomfort. And on the other side of that is something important. There is something there for you. I don't know what it is. No one really knows what it is. No one can tell you what it is. That's part of the fear of making changes or following your intuition when you don't really trust it or don't know what it's telling you or where it's leading you, or it's bringing you something unexpected. But regardless of what it is, it's something important. Even if it's hard, even if it's heartbreaking, it's something that is part of your path and wants to be heard and listened to and honored. If we want to live an intuitive, intentional, fully alive life, we have to create the space for us to do so. We have to create the space for our intuition to talk to us, for us to listen to it, and for us to follow through on it. Because if we are so caught up in our routines, our mundane life, if we're living on autopilot and full of distraction and noise, then first of all, we won't be able to hear our intuition. We won't even know how to talk to our intuition, and we won't have the space to let it breathe into our life. Even if we hear what it's saying, we will always come up with excuses of why we can't follow through on it, why it doesn't fit into what our normally scheduled programming is. And so I urge you to not only listen to it, but to find the space for it to come into your life, for it to guide your life, and for it to be a presence in your life. There's a topic or quote that my friend reminded me of recently that states that our nervous systems were only really trained to handle 150 people. In the past, we really only knew 150 people, give or take. And now we can connect with millions and millions and millions of people in the span of like 5 minutes. That is wild and so overstimulating. And we can say that we've adapted and adjusted and are doing fine with this new influx, but we really are not. I really don't think we are. And I think if we took the time to step away from that, we would realize. It's why when you go camping, you sleep so well. It's why when you take a break from social media, you feel the difference, whether that is profound relief or anxiety and discomfort. It is felt in our body and in our bones, and we need to give ourselves the space to acknowledge that and get curious and just observe what our mind does with that new space. Being a witness to your mind, that's part of disconnecting from the noise, is even disconnecting from getting caught up in your mind. Because as happens in meditation, your mind will come in and start to try to control and create these stories and obsess and bring you in circles, and your mind will try to steal the show. And it's about disconnecting from even the noise that your mind makes and being the observer, just witnessing it. And that is my goal for this next week, to create the space to be the witness of my own mind more clearly, and to take away any excess noise and stuff that has been clouding the clarity and the creativity and the connection that I have been so desperately seeking with myself and with the world around me and with my life. So that's where I am this week. That's what's happening for me this week. Pray for me. Hopefully it's going well. Hopefully I'm not losing my mind. And again, it doesn't have to be some big scary thing. It really isn't that crazy. Like, it shouldn't be so crazy to take a week off from social media and external stimulation and the everyday routine. But it definitely is for me. And I know it is for a lot of people. And that is one reason why I know I need to do it. So if you're looking for permission or a sign to do that thing that your intuition has been telling you to do, or to take that break from social media, or to let yourself rest and soften a little bit more deeply and create more space in your life, this is your sign to do so. And I really, 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 really hope you do it. And I really hope that you tell me how it goes. I will be back online next week, and I would love to receive some messages from you guys about what you have chosen to create space for in your life, what your intuition has been telling you, and what you've decided to say yes to. If you are needing help with any of this, I would love to support you. I do a lot of this kind of work with my clients in my Intuitively Wild mentorship, so those links will be below. But regardless, no matter what, I hope you just take really, really good care of yourself this week and remind yourself that you are doing enough. Exactly as you are, where you are, how you are right now. You are doing enough, you are enough, and everything is right on time for you. Okay, I will see you all next week. Thank you so much for joining me on this episode of Intuitively Wild, the podcast. I hope it helped deepen your connection to yourself, sparked some insights, and inspired you to live intuitively wild. If you enjoyed this podcast, it would mean so much to me if you would share it with others and leave a rating and review. And please reach out to me. I would love to connect with you. I will see you next time for more magic.